My fellow Zambians, with just hours before the dissolution of Parliament, 4 days to nominations, and 3 months to the general elections, I find it necessary to explain why I have decided to stand down in this election and support the candidature of President Hakainde Hichilema. In October 2024, the Movement for Multi-Party Democracy, now the New Nation Party, signed a memorandum of understanding with the United Party for National Development to form an alliance ahead of the August 2026 election. At that event, I outlined the 2 fundamental principles that guided our decision. First, we must bring unity to the nation. We envisage a Zambia that knows no region and no tribe, a nation guided by common destiny, where every Zambian can enjoy the benefits of citizenship equitably. Second, we must uphold the declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation. Since making that appeal, President Hichilema has demonstrated his commitment to national unity by promoting one Zambia, one nation. Contrary to some of the aspersions thrown at him, he stands out as one of the very few leaders in this country who can express himself quite well in many Zambian languages. That demonstrates his commitment to our national unity. If he was not interested in national unity, he would not spend his time learning the different languages across the expanse of this land. That singular act by him indicates his commitment to national unity. HH has shown a firm commitment to uphold Zambia as a Christian nation. We all remember how, in response to one of the worst droughts at our MOU signing event in October 2024, how he led the nation in prayer and offered one of the most moving and prophetic prayers for rain. That day marked the beginning of the end of the drought. We are now in a sobering moment as a nation. We are aware of the loud noise of political propaganda facing our nation. Sadly, we are not hearing each other above the noise. The division is deep, and the land we are dividing is the only land that we have. So tonight, I speak not to campaign, but as a statesman about the moral and political state of our nation. There are mountains of propaganda between us. Tonight, we must reason together so that we can flatten them with truth and patriotism. The first issue I want to address is the confusion around the burial of our 6th president. It is a national shame. This impasse is not President Hichilema's creation. It is the product of a nation that has not yet learned to bury political differences. A former president belongs to the nation and must be preserved in its history, not by a political party or a political faction. And the sitting president also deserves the respect of the nation. And this must be demonstrated in our actions and in words. This is enshrined in our Constitution. Just as important as the late president is, so is the current president and the office they both held and hold. I would like to appeal to the family, the Lungu family, that now that President Hakainde Hichilema has expressed publicly, although some of us already knew, that he does not need to be present at the burial of the late president, I believe that this would be good reason enough for the Lungu family to proceed with plans to bring back the body of our former president. We need to put this behind us. We need to join hands once again and fight for the prosperity of our country, the liberation of our country, and the democratization of our country. Let us put the former president to rest. Let me say a word on corruption. Zambians are tired of corruption. That is why assets have been recovered and cases are now in court. But there is a difference between fighting corruption and weaponizing accusation. If a minister in the current government is corrupt, name them, shame them. If there is a file, take it to SCC, not to a press conference. We cannot clean Zambia with rumors. Justice without evidence is vengeance, and vengeance has never built a nation. In 2021, Zambia was in a hole. We were drowning in debt. Inflation was eating pensions. The kwacha was in free fall. Hospitals had no drugs. And when a nation finds itself in a hole, the first rule is simple: stop digging. In 2021, Zambia needed a leader who could read a balance sheet, not just read a crowd. We needed a surgeon, not a singer. That is why Zambia chose Hakainde Hichilema. And we must take into consideration that the 2.8 million people that voted against President Lungu were demonstrating their need for departure from that type of leadership. They fought hard until they made that change. There was a reason for that. Look at the record. Debt reconstruction has been done. Free education has already been delivered. CDF delivered to every constituency. They may not be operating optimally like they should, but the decision to do the right thing has already been made, and we can only improve on it to make sure we perfect the service delivery on all these fronts. Yes, meal is still high. Life is still hard, but Zambia is paying the bills of yesterday. Recovery bleeds before it heals. We are not where we want to be, but thank God we are not where we used to be. And that's a great line. That definitely as a nation, we are not where we dream to be, but we are not where we used to be. We have come out of the dark cloud, and now we can see the brighter side ahead of us. The presidency needs a focused and highly disciplined individual to bring order and prosperity to the nation. Hakainde Hichilema carries both values. Since taking office, he has focused on rebuilding the economy with exceptional diligence. That focus has helped Zambia to get back on its road to economic recovery. The second value is discipline. He sets boundaries for himself and limits his appetites to concentrate on improving the lives of Zambians. At family level, he protects his wife and children from the murky side of politics. Our First Lady has continued the culture of former First Ladies before her, of a humble service and quiet impact in the community. In doing so, President Hichilema has given this country a Dorcas mother to be the mother of the nation. He has kept his children out of the cameras and insisted they be allowed to live quiet lives. In fact, many Zambians do not even know the names of his children. This is unique. This is the discipline that can help us build a nation. We are aware that in the past we had names of sons and children of the president that kept this nation sitting on edge. And now today, we don't even know the names of the children of the president, because there is an understanding that only President Hakainde Hichilema was elected by the Zambian people, and no one else should seem to be usurping that power. And this family has demonstrated self-discipline and self-restraint, and it's a virtue that Zambia needs. My fellow Zambians, it is very easy to have an attitude towards somebody you don't like for whatever reason. We feel very offended when somebody who is not close to us becomes president. Sometimes when a tribe takes over power, or somebody who belongs to a tribe we do not like, we try to demonize everything that they do. Life does not operate like that. You will not always have your uncle as president. You will not always have a brother as your president. You will not always have your tribesman as a president. God will choose whosoever he wills at any given time. Our focus should be on rebuilding the nation and working with that president in office at that time to improve the lot of all Zambians. Let us develop beyond tribalism and hold this country as our project, all of us together. To have a sober president, fellow countrymen, is an added benefit. A leader who is morally compromised may make the wrong calls and risk driving the nation into poverty and conflict. At this moment in time, Zambia needed a president who could face the mines and not blink. Under President Hichilema, KCM is back, and Mopani has a credible partner. For the first time in a long time, Zambia is negotiating over the mines like an owner and not begging like a tenant. Zambia needed a president who could remove cadres from markets without bloodshed. Today, a woman in Soweto sells tomatoes without paying tax to a political operative. That is freedom. Zambia needed a president who could stabilize money. Today, inflation is in single digits. Debt has been restructured, and the world is back at the table because Zambia's books now make sense for a change. Now let us cue another line that is used often, that HH is a puppet who has sold Zambia to the West. This accusation was given against myself as well when I was in Zimbabwe watching over that election in 2023, that I'd been sent by a Western puppet because I was also a Western puppet. It is President Hichilema who told investors that Zambia's minerals will be processed in Zambia. He went to China, to Washington, to Riyadh, not as a beggar, but as a head of state. Selling the country is what happens when you borrow billions with no plan to pay back. President Hichilema is not selling Zambia, he is repricing Zambia. Fellow Zambians, the most dangerous line is the oldest one, that he is a Tonga president. Look at his cabinet. Look at the roads. Look at CDF. Is the Mongu Kalabo Road in Wengwa? Is free education only for Tonga children? When drought hit, did he only distribute food to Tonga people? Absolutely not. He declared a national disaster, not a regional disaster. In fact, Zambia needed a man so disciplined that even his enemies cannot agree on which lie to accuse him of. They have called him a Satanist, a foreign agent, and now he eats human body parts. How? How can a man who refuses to eat bacon, pork chops, or drink beer on a Friday night because of his faith be the same man they accuse of dark rituals involving eating body parts? You see how desperate the lies have become. When you cannot find a wrong in a man's life, you invent it. You invent it. When you cannot fault his record, you attack his tribe. When you cannot beat his policies, you attack his diet, his sobriety, and his humanity. This is not politics. This is not democracy, and Zambia must reject it. A president who is disciplined is in what he eats and drinks will be disciplined in how he leads. A man who can tame his appetite will also diligently uphold the law of the land. A president is not a tribal chief. He is a national father. HH has funded all 10 provinces with CDF. He has put teachers in every district and desks in schools from Shangomo to Chama. To the tribalists, you are not fighting HH. You are fighting the ideal of one Zambia and one nation. We should stop playing with fire. To the young people of Zambia, you are the owners of today. Anger without direction is noise. President Hichilema has opened the door with free education and CDF. Walk through it. Don't burn the field before the harvest. President Hakainde Hichilema is not a saint, just as I am not one. We are all human and prone to mistakes. But for every season, God raises a leader, as human as all of us, but wired to deal with the challenges of that particular season. We need to fix our economy, and we need discipline back in the nation. HH qualifies to deal with both. Now, let me address the question many are asking me. Why am I, Nevas Mumba, standing down to endorse President Hakainde Hichilema? Why not contest the presidency myself? That is why this statement is necessary. Fellow Zambians, this decision was not made for cadreism or for expedience. It was made because I have been involved in the political process for 28 years. If one doesn't get any maturity after 28 years, then that person learns nothing from life. I have preached the gospel and been member of the clergy for 47 years. I have seen things and learned things. When I see a leader, I see a leader. Yes, many people have said, why didn't you stand? But everything has a season. And the wisdom of any human being is to understand the season in which God wants you to do a specific thing. At this point, with all the analysis I've given about President Hakainde Hichilema, I have not endorsed him or supported him just because he's a president of UPND. It's because I've watched his life. I have listened to him. We have talked in the dark. We have talked in the day. We have interrogated the situation in heated discussions at night and during the day. He stands as a leader that Zambia definitely needs now. He may not be your friend. He may not be your tribesman, but he's God's person for this season. And this country has now experienced stability that it has not experienced in a long time. And I would like for us to stay steady and see what God wants to do through the life of President Hakainde Hichilema. We believe in the God of seasons. There's a time to plant, and there's a time to fight, and there's a time to heal. For 10 years, Zambia endured a protracted battle for leadership between PF and UPND. We saw the West Division since 1964. We saw tribal polarization. We saw political divisiveness that tore families apart. As leader of the MMD then, I saw and experienced these things firsthand. I have seen and I've been arrested. I have been accused. I've been lied against. I've seen injustice wear a suit and call itself law. So as a statesman, I can assure Zambians of one thing. We do not need any more of this divisive politics. Zambia needs to rest and become one country again. We do not need 30 presidential candidates tearing each other down. We need 4 or 5 serious candidates with a real plan. We do not need to destroy each other to win elections. I want to say that with 2.8 million people saying no to PF, the Zambians are asking for space to see a new day. Almost all the serious candidates that have put their names forward to stand are branches of the Patriotic Front, almost all of them without exception. And it's wanting to come back using the back door. The Zambian people, yes, we hurt, we are angry about some of the decisions UPND has made. Some of them are complaining about the bills in Parliament. Some people are complaining about different things, the cost of living. We will complain at every given time, regardless of who the president is. And I think we should complain, because that's what democracy is all about, because that's what makes the leaders start to work harder. But we should not forget so easily that these branches of the PF that has fragmented have any plan. With all due respect, a lot of these are my friends. These are my brothers and sisters. Some of them developed them and saw them grow politically. Younger to me in politics, but they deserve to run. But to be honest, even if they came together today, they are not ready to govern. That's not my decision, it's your decision. But they do not have even time to sit down together to make a plan on how they are going to run this country. They are going to do that while in power, if at all it happened that one of them became president. And we shall not take that risk. We should not take that risk. And I know there are many Zambians there that have listened to Nevas Mumba for the past 47 years. They know that he has faced his own problems, challenges, difficulties, but you know you can trust my voice. Everything I said about the PF from the time of Mr. Michael Sata has come to pass. I said when President Michael Sata becomes president, the economy of this country will go 10 years behind. And for sure, by the time PF was leaving government, we were in minus 2% of economic growth. We were indebted with debt. We had been failing to pay our commitments to foreign debt, and our economy was on its knees, just as I said. Later on, I did mention that now that President Lungu has retired from active politics, you people go ahead and elect your own president. Don't bring him back, because if you do, the same thing that happened to UNIP, the same thing that happened to MMD will happen to PF. I said that. But this world and in this country, once you categorize somebody as an enemy, you don't even listen to them. Everything I said about the PF has come to pass. And I want to say more today, but to the Zambian people. Let's not make the mistake of going backwards to pick up the fragments of PF and place the challenges they carry today on the future and the destiny of our country. Let's not do that. I believe in elections that shall follow in many years from now. A lot of these, most of them are young people. They are going to still be around to give it another shot to attempt to become leaders of this country. For now, I recommend to the Zambian people President Hakainde Hichilema, because he has proved himself. And together as an alliance, we promise to unite this nation. We promise to sustain this country as a practical Christian nation. And we promise to ensure that every Zambian, regardless of tribe, is going to feel part of the process and the progress of our country. I give this endorsement today because I believe that President Hakainde Hichilema has done what very few could have done in the last 5 years. So I have chosen to stand with him, not because I cannot lead myself, not because the new nation is weak, but because Zambia is more important than Nevas Mumba. And Zambia is more important than any one man's ambition. I call upon all Zambians, my church colleagues, my family and friends to join hands with us to return President HH in August this year. Vote for the culture of humble service to continue. Vote for healing. Vote for continuity. May God bless you. May God bless the church. May God bless our youth. May God bless our women. And may God bless our great republic. I thank you.